Welcome to Grim's Ditch. My name is Dan Anderson, and I have just felt compelled and moved to make a recording here. And part of the reason for that is that the world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, and there seems to be so much stuff going on that the only sane response is to rise up and say something about it. I don't know if I can string words together as eloquently as Neil Oliver, for instance, or any of the other people who are speaking up so strongly about what's going on at the moment. The lockdown for me has been a 2-year process of apocalypse, the unveiling of things that I was vaguely aware of, things that I kind of had thought, but there seems to be something so blatant about what's going on in this period of time, where the corruption and the malice and the duplicity of people who wish us ill has been laid bare to me in a way that is hard to even verbalize. I'm sure that many of you are feeling the same thing, and we're going through this experience, and we can see so clearly that all is not well. I have no particular script here to structure this talk on, and I'm kind of turning it over to God to give me the words that may or may not be useful, and that's also been part of my journey, because I've always had a spiritual bent, if you like, or a sense that there's a spiritual side to this journey that we make, but I've never been a good Christian. I've never been a church goer. In fact, when I was 15, living in Sweden, I was supposed to go through my confirmation, and I studied it with great interest. It was in the format of every Wednesday night we would get together, a bunch of 20 kids, together with a priest, and ask questions and study and learn. And when it came towards the countdown for going to church the following Sunday, I did some soul searching and discovered that no, this is not for me. I'm not going to do it. I believe in God, but I don't believe in the church as it was exposed to me at the time. And much of my life's journey has been about unraveling that bit and living in the world at the same time, and doing the best I can with the choices presented to me. But the lockdown has been an awakening. It has been an unveiling. It has been an apocalypse. It has been something where, through my entire life, I've always felt that there was no such thing as evil. That was an illusion. That was a lack of perspective. That was a misunderstanding of what you're looking on, and a judgment. And yet, in these 2 years of pandemic, in these 2 years of coordinated global attacks on Western democracies and their populations by their trusted representatives, it's come to my attention, or it's come to my awareness, that there is malice in the world. There is choices that are not just clumsy. There are choices that seemingly are malicious. And I've come to the conclusion that I was wrong for 60 years. There is evil in the world, and some of the things that have been done to people are outright evil. And we can argue back and forth, and you might have a different view, and I respect that, but when it comes to consciously and willingly and knowingly doing harm to children, there's no other way to describe that than evil. There's no other way to describe the intent to take risks with children's lives than evil. There's no other way to describe paedophilia but evil. And therefore, for myself, I've come to a conclusion that evil does exist, and that has been quite alarming and has been quite an eye-opener for me, and a reframing of an awful lot of meaning in my life. Because where that takes me, of course, is that if I come to a place where I accept that evil does exist, where I accept that dark forces or there's a dark side to the force, or indeed there are demonic spirits enslaving people and making them do their bidding to a dark agenda, by extension, by logic, by my God-given ability to reason, it also stands to reason that there is good. And therefore I've had to reevaluate pretty much everything in my life, and I need to give thanks to my suffering family, who more often than I care to admit to have looked at me as though I'd completely lost my marbles and wonder what the hell has happened to Dad. Now, I am not churchy, but I always go in and sit in churches. I have done the Camino de la Santiago Compostela, the walk across northern Spain from France, 30-day pilgrimage that walks across a landscape interspersed with churches and cathedrals pretty much every day, and I've always taken great joy in going in and sitting inside churches and having a little commune with my God. Even now, as I walk through Oxfordshire, more often than not the path will lead me past a pretty much abandoned church, or two or three, that are not seeing an awful lot of service, but I will go in there and I'll sit in the quiet with my long-suffering dog and have a little moment. And the more I look at the last 2 years' experience, the more it looks like we're up against powers and principalities, that this is a biblical battle, that maybe this is the end times, maybe we are called to rise, maybe it's going to get worse before it gets worse. So this conversation with me talking about my observations and you, if you find it of interest, participating in that. It's about some of those issues, because I have an experience of God. I have an experience of spirituality. I have lived a long life, and it would ill behoove me to not share it. Now, I'm not a journalist. I am not a orator of great skill. I'm just a Mr. Everyman. I've done many things in my life, and I've travelled many places. I've studied many things. I am an avid reader, but I'm not formal in almost anything that I do. Like many of you, it's a part of my life, but it's not my life. My life for the last 18 years has been my family and my 2 teenage boys and my lovely wife, who I've put through more than I care to even verbalise. The path that I'm walking today is called Grimm's Ditch, and I'm not even sure why, if anyone knows why it's called that, but it is known as Grimm's Ditch, and there are a few Grimm's Ditches in the UK. And Grimm's Ditch is a path that is Neolithic, to the best of my knowledge, 3,000 years old, 4,000 years old, and it goes from Wallingford through to Henley, and it's got a lot of character and a lot of there's a vibe here. I don't know that I understand what ley lines are. I don't know if I really know what energy is about. I think my basic orientation in life is, as someone described it, that you're not a psychic, you're not a medium, you're a healer. And I don't know. But there's something about Grimm's Ditch that inspires me, because for 3,000 years, let's say, people have walked on this path. And 3,000 years ago, it was worth the communities then to build this path. And it's not a small feat. As I walk along, I'm walking, I don't know, maybe in areas 7 feet above the fields on left and right, maybe 10 feet, in places 15 feet. And it's like, in this section, it's a raised ditch, the opposite of a ditch, if you like. But it was formed by moving rocks and earth and soil from the fields to this ridge. And it's obviously part of the ridgeway, and this section here is a perfect illustration of a ridge that is man-made. And I've done a bit of gardening over the last 2 years, and just moving earth and clay and mud and stones manually is no small task. And for some reason it was worth these Neolithic societies to make a ditch here, and it fills me with great mystery every time, and I've never met anyone who knew that much about it, and I'm not quite sure if there is a archaeological understanding of why and where and when and how this path was so important. But fine, I walk on it with my dog, and I have thoughts that I will share with you. And we are part of a tradition. I think that's part of what this is, because as I'm walking here, it feels like I'm connecting to ancient tribes, and some of them must have gone through, the people in those times and in that span of time must have gone through terrible times the same way we are going through terrible times now, and good times as well, obviously. But there's something about that at the moment, this is the most important time any of us have lived through. This is the most important time that we have chosen to be born into. This is the most important pivotal before and after time, the most pivotal watershed moment, I think, in human history, because the Western experiment of democracy, flawed though it may have been, is now in a moment of being under attack, transforming, shifting into something else. I was born in 1960, and I remember seeing my first mobile phone. I remember going on the internet when the internet was black and green. I had an Amstrad PCW. I had a ZX Sinclair 81. Sinclair ZX81 computer on which I played Star Trek. I have seen mobile telephony. I have seen the internet. I have seen technology come in, and it's been a remarkable period of time. And now we're nudging into artificial intelligence. We are unraveling the genome. We are inventing things that transform what it means to be a human, potentially, or at least layering something on top of that that is noteworthy and interesting. And these are the times that you decided to be born into, and I don't think that you chose to be born into here to be silent, to be along for the ride, to just earn money and be a wage slave. I don't think that any of us came in here with any other purpose except to help. And I think we get lost along the way. And when I say that there are dark forces at work, I think that's the challenge that we're all facing. I think metaphorically that we're all coming here in a parallel sense to what the protagonists of Doris Lessing's work, Briefing for a Descent into Hell, went through. That we came down here to do work, and it is so easy to lose our way, and that's our challenge, and that's the obstacle in the way of us doing the work that we came here to do, that we get lost, we get sucked in, we get possessed, we get sidetracked, and we don't stop to think. We don't stop to look at what we're doing, what's going on, how we can participate. We fall asleep, and we're mesmerized, and we're hypnotized, and we are asleep. And I think that there's a truther movement, again flawed as it may be, the same way that I'm flawed, that is trying to wake itself up and hoping to wake up other people to the reality of what's going on. Because for lack of vision, the people perish. We can't see the woods for the trees. We can't see what life is because we're so bloody busy paying the mortgage. And that whole conundrum is what I want to maybe talk about. I don't think I'm any thing special. If I know anything at all, it's that I am the same as everyone else. I come from a very humble and ordinary background. I've had some success in my life. I've had some failures. I've had my battles. I've had my demons. But I've come through to a point where I've realized that I have to speak. I have to talk. And if that has value to you, if that helps you at least share another human being going through some of the things that you're going through, then that has value. And that's my aspiration for my Grimm's Ditch talk. And I'll be doing a series of these over the next few months, and take you on walks in Oxfordshire, and show you what a wonderful place the world is, and how precious it is, and how that recognition maybe can help you remember what it is that you're supposed to remember. Yeah, so this walk, this Grim's Ditch phenomena, I've turned the camera around so you can sort of see how it is just absolutely magical. It's like walking through a tunnel, vibrant life all around, and it's like you're in a different continuum almost as you stand here, and every now and then it opens up and you can see the rolling hills and farms in the background, and it is just the most extraordinary thing. And I've always been struck by it exactly in that fashion, that this place is magical, and I count my blessings every day to live in a place like this, to be able to take joy in this abundant life and this abundant beauty. And that's why I'm so concerned with how there seems to be forces that don't recognize this, and there seems to be a malicious intent towards all of this, where we're trying to pave the countryside over, we're trying to take farmers out of their multi-generational calling of growing food and crops for people. And there seems to be so much disassociation between people and what's real. People are living in this mental landscape of ideas that half the time, frankly, make no sense whatsoever. What is a woman? I mean, come on. The whole notion that we have 200, 300 genders and all of that is just a mental concept that makes no sense in nature. And everyone, if you're honest about it, you know that that is the truth. When you walk around on a path like this, in nature like this, you know what's real. You know also what matters. You know that this is something extraordinary, worth fighting for, worth preserving, worth stewarding. I think that if we're supposed to do anything with our time on the planet, we're supposed to be stewards of the landscape, of animals, of the weaker, of the things that look to us for strength, not to oppress but to protect, not to abuse and exploit, but to support and help it grow. And I don't know, the insanity of what's going on is almost like a palpable thing. It's almost like something you can touch, that the craziness of social media and of people's random fights is just crazy. Now, God knows that I don't have any hard answers. I don't know. I've studied neuro-linguistic programming. I went to America and I studied with Richard Bandler, one of the co-founders, one of two of NLP. I have built international businesses where we had customers and partners in 190 countries. It was insane. I have done speeches, I have traveled across China, I have gone around the world, but I've never had the sense that I know anything more than anyone else, really, and I can learn from anyone. So I'm not coming from that perspective that I have secret law or powerful algorithms, or that I have any greater sense than you what's really going on. So if I trigger you and set you off on something, that's not my intention, and I'm coming to this from a very, very humble place. But I will speak about things that matter to me. I will speak about things that touch me, and I will do my best to add a perspective to it, but I won't say that I have all the answers, because I don't. I'm a fuckwit the same as anyone else, and I've done many things, but I have never lodged myself in academia. I have never gone into politics, although I have been to the Houses of Parliament and I've organised events in the UK House of Parliament, and I was involved in cryptocurrency from 2014. So, having said all of that, I've now turned around and I'm walking back. At the moment, I am participating in a village cafe that every Tuesday night meets in a little local village, and it's kind of like a speak easy where people get together from the county really and the neighbouring counties, and sometimes we have 12 people, sometimes we have 30 people, and I've been dipping in and out of this for a year and a half. In January last year, then 18 months ago, the lockdowns had been going on for a long time, and we were in the worst of the madness then, where we couldn't meet people. We were told that we shouldn't meet people. I had started to I'd gone a fair old way down to waking up to the craziness of everything, and I'd started to refuse to wear the mask everywhere for a longish while at that point. But I suddenly got wind of this meeting that was happening, and it was happening there and there, and people were getting together, and it was such a novel thing that you could meet people face to face in a group, because we'd been locked down for, I don't know, 6-9 months on and off at this stage, with massive restrictions, and it was wearing thin, and I didn't know how thin it was wearing until I got to this cafe that was meeting in a clandestine manner. It felt like we were the French Revolution getting together. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it was this cafe, and I had been told that there'd be no lights on because we didn't want to draw attention to ourselves, and I found this cafe. I pushed the door open. I was standing inside a cafe, and it was closed, nothing going on, but I could hear noises from upstairs, and so I went up these stairs, and in this dark room were people sitting by candlelight having cups of tea and coffee, and there was maybe, I don't know, 12 people there, and people came up to me and wished me welcome and gave me a hug, and I got a hug from strangers, and it was such a restoration of normality at that stage that even talking about it, it can almost bring tears to my eyes. And I've been going there on and off now for a year and a half. Some of these people have become very, very dear friends, in the sense that we know each other, we have a network. We're not necessarily people that would go out or hang together, but slowly over time these bonds between people have been formed, and then we have a local stand in the park that I go to every Sunday, and it's not huge. The most we've ever had there was like 10 or 12 people, but there's a wider group of maybe 30-40 from our little local community that come together in the stand in the park, alternate weekends, etc. And I don't go every weekend, but so there's a wider pool of people with a hardcore of people, and we are all bewildered that we can see it and other people can't. We are mystified and we rant about it sometimes. It's the funniest thing. How is it that people can't see what's going on? The erosion of civil liberties, the corruption, the money grabbing going on, the chamocracy, the flagrant disregard of human norms. I mean, what does it take in the UK now for a member of parliament to resign? There is no trough of integrity that would compel Boris Johnson to resign. It doesn't matter. So we're kind of flabbergasted, yet the people around us, in our families and in our friendships groups and amongst our neighbours are, as best we can see, asleep. And it drives, well, it drives me crazy. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm sure it drives some of you crazy as well, is why can't they see it? I've also built up a Twitter channel which has got some 8,000 followers, which according to Elon Musk is probably about 4,000 bots, but fine. But there's a great big group of this small minority that see it and are fighting. I've been into London. I've done more marches than I care to think about, and they've all been very, very inspirational, because these are people that you could have a beer with, as James Delingpole says. These are people that you could hang out with and they'd be great. So there is, maybe we're a control group, maybe we're after 200,000 years of human evolution, maybe a tribe needs to have one dissenter. Maybe there needs to be one person in a tribe that speaks up against the despotic leadership, and maybe 29 are supposed to just follow, but if things get too bad, maybe the wider tribe wakes up, and that's kind of the metaphor that I'm operating under now, that we're the control group. We're the group that's here to bear witness, to stand firm, to, in some sense, refuse to succumb to the insanity. And I like that, because for a long time I've been feeling that as a group we are a self-organizing, disparate, disjointed collective. Oh my God, look at this. It's just glorious. And we haven't been called into action yet. But we're holding strong and we are still here, and we've built a local network. That's what's around me, with people that are from all walks of life, from all levels of success, from all levels of social strata, who are all saying the same thing. I don't get it why people don't see it, but fine, be that as it may. So that's kind of where I am. It's a weekly speakeasy, it's a weekly stand in the park, it's maybe not even fully a monthly protest, and it's daily hours on Twitter, on Telegram, of researching and looking at information and trying to find out who are the genuine voices of this self-organizing collective and who are shills, and goodness knows it's hard to see. Now, one of the projects that came to me in a bit of a flash of inspiration really was, have you ever felt that there was something wrong with the world? And I turned to my Twitter tribe, as it were, which is absolutely not a tribe. I'm not running it like that, and I'm not communicating like that. I'm basically a megaphone pushing out information that maybe other people will find useful to share amongst people that they want to communicate with. But that's kind of info networking and meme seeding, if you like. But have you ever felt that there was something wrong in the world? And of course, anyone listening to this, anyone who stayed with me this long, you would absolutely know what I'm talking about there. And I decided that what I need to do is create a presentation, probably just a PowerPoint, and then a series of videos explaining each of the points. And if you visualize, in the center, a little bit like the World Economic Forum's Great Reset agenda, you know, that circular thing that they wear as a rainbow coloured badge. And don't you just hate it that they appropriate and steal rainbows all over the place? That's fine. In the centre of that circle is a question mark, and the question posed is, have you ever felt that there was something wrong in the world? with the world, and then surround that by a number of points that we could talk about. For instance, let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about how they granted themselves emergency use authorization, and how we have a regulatory capture situation, and boom, 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 boom. There's an awful lot to talk about. Let's talk about the World Economic Forum. Maybe you looked at the World Economic Forum and thought, this is weird, these are unelected representatives and they're making decisions and choices that I did not agree to. Yet my elected representatives seem to be playing the game with them. That's just weird. So we can talk about that. There is a conspiracy theory land of the Rothschilds. There is the financial system, there's the monetary system, there's the Federal Reserve, there's the creation of money, there is Ukraine. There is a number of different topics that I want to explore and put together in this presentation, and maybe that will be of use to people that they can share. In the back of my head I have this notion that maybe we could create a little framework for holding an evening meeting and giving that as a resource to people to talk about different things that don't seem right in the world today. And I posed this question and this concept and this project to my Twitterati, and they came back with all sorts of things that was brilliant, and not least the climate change hoax. That's just funny as well. Any which way, turned into 17, which obviously it gives us a springboard into QAnon and all of that sort of madness. So again, I'm not saying that I'm the world's best and deepest academic researcher of all of these things, but after 2 years I have come across an awful lot of material that is indicative that they are lying to us about everything. They are lying to you about your history. They are lying to you about your humanity. They are lying to you about who you are and where you live and how things work. And they have glamorized you, as in cast a glamour on you, cast a spell that when you wake up and you suddenly see it, you become a testimony to the truism that a mind once stretched never goes back to its original dimension, and suddenly you can see everything. And you can never unsee it. And so if I can do anything with these talks and this presentation that I'll share on my different channels, that's something that would give me great satisfaction if I can do a helpful job on that. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So this is Dan Anderson and Prada the dog on our little walk on Grim's Ditch, and just look at it. It is truly glorious. Thank you very much indeed for your kind attention.